Senator Taylor. I appreciate your remarks about allergies, so please bear with me just a little bit. I'm going to talk a little bit about budget and then a little bit about parent support, and we'll be ready to take whatever questions you have for us. CSCOPE development and support are funded primarily through a student user fee. This is a campus-based. There's also a campus-based technology fee. Additional revenue comes from an annual statewide CSCOPE conference, and a small amount of revenue is procured from contracts with third-party companies. The funds generated from school district participation are collected by the ESC that supports that district, and then a portion of those funds is passed along to the CSCOPE, and that's for Texas Education Service Center Computer Cooperative. Those funds are passed along to the fiscal agent, and Region 13 serves as the fiscal agent to support the state CSCOPE development. The remaining share is retained in the home region to provide training, technical assistance, and support to the district's charters and private schools that purchase CSCOPE. A pricing committee composed of ESC directors meets annually and determines the price per student. For the last several years, that fee has been set at $7 per student. Then, after review of the proposed budget for the fiscal agent, the committee determines the share of the per student fee that will be flowed to the fiscal agent and the share that will remain in the home region for the support of their districts. That pricing committee also determines the technology fee. Last year, we finished up with a deficit budget in the statewide office, and we're projecting deficit budgets for the next 2 years. The business model for the TES-CCC and ESCs in general is based on cost recovery. If we gain additional districts during a year, then those additional revenues are used to offset budget deficits that may either be pending. If we lose districts or incur unexpected costs, we must rely on our fund balance to go back to the regions for additional funding. Any excess revenue goes into research and additional development, and one example of that is we're currently working on developing materials for teachers of English language learner students. CSCOPE is held by a 501c3 nonprofit corporation. It was put in place at the recommendation of attorneys we worked with as we began to formalize and organize our cooperative. At that time, there were 10 ESCs with a number of others showing interest, and we now have all 20 education service centers as a part of the cooperative. As we looked at the complexity of the system, the shared resources, working with multiple contractors, along with various private sector entities, considerations for intellectual property, and our desire to protect that property for the sake of our districts, we agreed that we did need a more formalized structure. It's important to note that the 501c3 neither holds nor manages any financial resources. As a part of the organizational process, ESC 13, my center, was designated as the fiscal agent for the co-op. ESC 13 employs all of the staff in the statewide office that are designated for CSCOPE work in terms of development and support. All finances are handled by the fiscal agent, Region 13. Funds are accounted for according to GASB guidelines. CSCOPE funds are audited as a part of our required individual annual independent audit that's submitted to TEA, it's reported through PEMS, and it's posted on our website. And that's, we can come back to questions. I would like to talk to you a little bit about parent access. It's always been the intention of the TES-CCC and CSCOPE to allow teachers and school districts to share CSCOPE content with parents. Parents' right, and the co-op strongly encourages parents to play an active role in their child's education. It was brought to our attention and to the attention of the co-op that our user agreement that we asked teachers to accept before accessing the site, that there was language in there that was misinterpreted and it created confusion for our districts. And that is on us. That's not the fault of the teachers that was misinterpreted. So to clarify this, the TES-CCC, we've taken the following steps. We have amended our user agreement to specifically state that districts may share or post any content they feel is helpful to assist parents in better understanding that their child is learning. Obviously, this does not include tests and answer keys. We allow teachers to post handouts, worksheets, and lessons that they believe are beneficial to students to view on the classroom website, and they also make hard copies for parents to view. And on January 23rd, the CSCOPE Governing Board, the TES-CCC Governing Board, clarified that each district may establish their own policies and procedures for parental access. And we will continue to go back to that to make sure folks remember that so much of this is tied to local district discretion. I mean, we want to make sure that things are open on our end, but folks still need to abide by their own district policies and procedures. Allow parents direct access to the site by coordinating a time with their child's school. The TES-CCC will continue working with CSCOPE schools on improving direct parent access and assisting them in establishing set procedures prior to the start of the 13-14 school year. I think the most exciting part, in order to be as responsive to parents as we possibly can, we are currently developing a completely new parent resource site that will provide more information to parents than ever before. The new site will include unit summaries, key terms that students will be learning, and items related to student performance in the unit. It's the goal of the co-op that these elements are available starting for the 5th, 6 weeks of this current school year. The TSCCC will collect feedback throughout the remainder of the year and will continue to work to improve the site and continue our work with our parents and school districts for the 13-14 school year. I think it's important to note that CSCOPE has been and will continue to be for its existence a work in progress. And for the 12-13 school year, we implemented a brand new technology system that CSCOPE runs on. Prior to that time, our system was, for lack of a better word, somewhat archaic, and there was not a way to open up access. It was either, if we gave you a login and password, you had access to everything, including all of the tests and answer documents and those kinds of things, and there was no way to grant limited access. We're not where we want to be yet, but the first step was to implement the new system, which we have that up and running good now, and so that's opening the door to a lot of other types of things that we can do with our new technology. And that's it for our prepared remarks. Please take the questions.
Yes. First of all, let's welcome Senator Seligman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And we passed our bill out. We have a motion writing for you. You and I joint authored over 15%, so
I've completed. Thank you very much.
Okay. I do have some questions. Senator Duncan, you said early on kind of the structure and again the reason that we called the hearing was there have been questions about transparency, questions about the how CSCOPE was organized. We've had feedback from teachers and parents, and so I want them to lay out where they've been, where they started, where they are today. Members have a series of questions and then open it up to additional questions. Either Dr. Smith or Dr. Leibai, where did the ESCs get the authority to begin a nonprofit corporation? What gives you that authority?
I'm not sure whether there's anything in writing that grants us that authority, but we're not aware of anything that prevents it. And several of the service centers have other nonprofits, and actually several of the service centers were set up as nonprofits initially. And back to the days of when we were first receiving any types of federal and state grants, some of those grants required nonprofit status. And I can't speak for all the service centers. I spent quite a bit of time at Region 20 in San Antonio, and that one was set up as a nonprofit on its own, as was Region 13.
Did you seek any advice from the Attorney General or the legislature before doing that?
No, sir. We saw a lot of attorney guidance because we were very cautious in that manner. Anyway, I don't know if you want to add anything to that or not.
No, I think it's just simply a matter of a lot of shared effort, a lot of resources pulled together from the service centers with intellectual property content at stake, and so it was just advised as good business practice to form a 501c3 to manage them.
Are you aware that normally when government entities do form a nonprofit that it's through statute with the legislature, not on their own?
No, sir. And I guess we were working partly from previous experience because we knew of other service centers that had done something similar in years past.
You mentioned that all the employees with CSCOPE, TSCCC,
Yes,
are government employees, paid for by taxpayers.
that's correct.
So you have employees paid for by taxpayers working for a private corporation.
Not exactly. The employees are all employees of Education Service Center Region 13 and under TRS as with any other school district employee. And essentially what happens is then the nonprofit contracts with that group of employees in Region 13 to do the work. And that's why we try to keep it real clean that there's no finances running through that. The only holding of the 501(c)(3) is the content of CSCOPE itself.
So help me again understand why you formed the nonprofit. There are no employees and no money moving through it.
Yes, sir.
And you didn't get permission from either the legislature or didn't even ask the opinion of the Attorney General's office. What is the point of the nonprofit?
The point was that, first of all, the original version of CSCOPE started in one region. And then 4 regions began to join together and work on that. And then there was the discussion about a statewide type of cooperative. And looking at how to organize that, considering the amount of intellectual property that would be involved, the work of all the centers working together, shared resources, how we would manage it if one service center joined and then later left, and looking at those types of collaborative arrangements. We were also, honestly, at that point in time, and this is going back to like the original discussions, 08 and 09 in that time frame, we were hoping that through partnerships with a number of vendors and even textbook companies, because we were visiting with them frequently and still are, about alignment, that we were hopeful at some point in time that CSCOPE could basically be given to the districts at no cost. But as a part of that, we had a lot of concern about the intellectual property. And Senator, honestly, that was our only real concern, was the intellectual property. And I guess we looked at it from the standpoint that, yes, it's developed with public funds. Because of that, it's to an extent it's a public asset. But for the sake of our districts, we really needed to protect that so that